Hello, everybody. I hope you are having a fantastic Wednesday. So, in today's episode of the Reach Films podcast, we are going to discuss the brand new released GoPro 12. Now, here's right the 11 I have right here, and I've really enjoyed using this camera. And I'll talk later in the live stream on why I pretty much stopped using GoPros for almost 10 years. But now, with the 11 and with the 12 that just came out, GoPro has added a lot. Oh, keep hitting this here. GoPro has added quite a lot for professional filmmakers, content creators who want to maybe add a small camera to their arsenal that shoots 10-bit and they're going to color grade and have it match all the other cameras. So let's talk about the GoPro Hero 12. I'm going to show this little clip and we'll come back. We'll discuss the GoPro and whatever you all want to discuss this week, because it's been a pretty big camera week. Today, GoPro has announced the GoPro Hero 12, which is a slight upgrade over the GoPro Hero 11, which we're actually filming on right now. And in today's live stream, I want to discuss the GoPro Hero 12, the updates that GoPro has done to this camera. Is it worth getting over an 11? And I think for most people, unfortunately, that answer is going to be no. We're going to go over the features, some of the new tools for professionals, and more, all while I'm riding my bike today here with the GoPro 11 on my helmet as my little helmet cam. First off, let's talk about the price. The GoPro Hero 11 is being launched at $400, which kind of saw coming because GoPro does these sales. Like when I bought the GoPro Hero 11 for $350, and they call it a sale, but it's really a price reduction because now the GoPro Hero 11 is sitting at $350, and it's a $50 difference between both cameras. The Hero 12 has HDR, high dynamic range video, and for photos as well, offering better battery life. They're saying 2 times longer in 5.3K, 60 frames per second video. Don't know if that's exactly 2 times longer than the 11, but you are going to get better battery times in this 12 regardless. GoPro's added Hypersmooth 6.0, which is supposed to be a slightly improved version of the Hypersmooth 5.0 we see in the 11, and the Hypersmooth 5.0 is fantastic. I've been using it for these biking videos you see right now. And with the Hypersmooth enabled, you get really smooth shots. Even with me bobbing up and down with my head, you will notice a little bit of the bobbing, although the image is still relatively smooth with just the regular Hypersmooth enabled and not the auto boost on. There's a new Max mod too, which is usable with now 4K 60 video. And on the 11, the prior Max mod was only usable with 2.7K. So it'll be interesting to see if we're actually able to use this new Max mod with the 11. There are new Bluetooth supports. Now, this isn't something I'm necessarily going to use, but for you AirPod users, if you use the Apple AirPod and you want to be able to use them as a microphone with your new GoPro 12, you can. When using my AirPods, the audio quality for live streams has been okay, slightly better than a phone call, but not as good as using even an iPhone on a live stream or a video call. But that could have been the live stream platform, so I'm interested to see how this works and if you actually get really decent audio quality. At that point, you have a wireless mic without having to have any accessories, without having to use the media mod, anything like that. So that could be a really cool addition. And then the biggest addition for pro video, which I'm assuming we're all going to be discussing today in the live stream, is the actual GoPro Log mode. Now, to shoot a log profile, you've had to do a lot in these GoPro cameras. You've had to change the color profile to flat, and then you've also had to go into the white balance and change it to native, which I've discussed a few times, but I don't get why you would have to do that in the white balance setting to have a quote-unquote log type shooting mode. And it's in the manual. If you look at it, you want to take a look. I've had videos covering it, and I'll do videos more in the future. But it seems that this new GoPro Log mode kind of simplifies all that, and you don't have to worry about the native white balancing or any of that anymore. If you want to shoot in log, you choose this new GoPro Log profile, and you unlock the maximum dynamic range that this camera offers. Now, the only thing that's changed about the actual look of the GoPro is on the 12, there's a little bit of a specular look at the front. I'll show you what the GoPro 11 looks versus the 12. Not a really big deal. I actually think the 11 looks actually a little bit more professional than the 12 because I don't like those specs on there. But it doesn't really make a huge difference. It's an action cam. It's small as it is. But these are the changes that GoPro has made to the actual GoPro Hero 12. Now, one thing I want to show you before we go to the live stream part is the difference in shooting in the log mode, which we'll use on the 11 because I don't have a 12 on me, versus shooting baked in. And you'll notice off the bat, the colors when you shoot in log, if you're going to color grade your footage, are just incredible because of the 10-bit video that the GoPro Hero 11 introduced, and now the 12 has as well. So the fact that you can now color grade, have 10-bit video, wide dynamic range, the GoPro is a lot more of a serious tool for professionals, and I think a lot more people like myself are going to want to pick up this camera. So let's go discuss now here in the live stream. So here is my GoPro Hero 11, and I'm glad I got the timing on that right. That was kind of funny. But I've really enjoyed using this camera, and I picked it up, geez, I think it was like May. So I've had it for a few months now, and I stopped using GoPro. It's kind of a petty reason, but I stopped using them. I used GoPros for many years. I even worked with GoPro back in my wakeboarding days 10 years ago. And I used GoPros because they were in a waterproof camera that you can use in a bunch of situations you didn't want to put your bigger cameras in. The image quality back then was okay, but it was worth it. We didn't have the cameras 10 years ago that we do now. Now, when GoPro decided to get into drones, and I know it's a little personal, but when they got into drones, I decided to, buy a lot of stock in the company. I had some money at the time, some extra money, and I thought, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. And as many of you may or may not know, when GoPro released their drone, right before they did that, their stock like plummeted. And their stock when I invested, it was like $64, and at one point it shot up to like $100 and something dollars, and then it just plummeted. And today the stock is worth like $3-4. So GoPro has taken a huge dump. And when that happened, the GoPros weren't much better in 2015 when this all happened than they were a few years even when I was working with them. So I just stopped using GoPros, and I was just like, if I ever need an action waterproof camera, I'll get one in the future. And then the Osmo Pocket came out, and then they had the waterproof housing for the Osmo Pocket. So I just got around using GoPro for many years because I kind of got soured by that whole experience. And then when they came out with this 11 and they offered 10-bit video, it piqued my interest because of DJI and how they've implemented 10-bit at that point in their drones. And their drones, they weren't cinema cameras, but the 10-bit drones that they had were pretty solid. And I was able to color grade them, do a lot with them. So I decided to invest in this GoPro because it really wasn't that expensive. It was like $350 on sale, which we all kind of know at this point that when they have them on sale and it's later in the year, we know their release cycle all the time. It's pretty identical pretty much every year. They pretty much discounted this because the new one was coming out. So me personally, I knew that coming in. My, I guess, gripe with GoPro is if you're not following the GoPro release cycles, you would not know that when they do this, holiday sale on the GoPro 11, that it's because the new one's coming out. And that's a little bit of deceptive marketing. And I get that they kind of have to do it because they don't want to be like, oh, the GoPro 12 is coming out soon, so we're discounting the 11. And not to poo-poo on the 12, but in this update, for the most part, the GoPro 12 was, the small little change to the front of the camera right here, and a lot of software type stuff. Now, I don't know if the Bluetooth is all hardware, because obviously the Bluetooth connectivity to the AirPods is not in the 11, and I doubt it's going to come in a firmware update. But the biggest, software type update that is a difference between the 11 and the 12 is the fact of the GoPro Log, like I discussed at the end of that live stream bit. And in this camera, you can get pretty much what GoPro is calling Log in the GoPro Hero 11. And technically, I believe you can get it in the 10 as well, where you shoot in their flat profile, and then you go into the white balance setting. And then instead of choosing a custom white balance like 3200, 5000, or even putting it to auto, there's this option for native. And by using the flat profile with the native white balance, you get what now GoPro is calling GoPro Log on the Hero 11 and the 10, although it doesn't make as much sense to do it here on the 10. Looking at the chat, hey, how's it going? Good to see you, bro. My frame rate is weird. I don't know what's going on. If it stays weird, let me know. But I'm basically putting this in my FX30
into 24p. So I'm trying to stream in 24, and who knows, maybe it's outputting 30 and that makes something weird. But I can only see what I see in my streaming platform. So do let me know if it stays a little funky. But thank you for joining me today live on this episode. By the way, if you're listening to this episode after the fact, these are live streams that I make into podcasts. So definitely make sure to join us live, because you can join in on the fun, ask questions, be a part of the show. It's kind of like 15 frames per second. I don't know. I'll have to look at the end of this episode, see what's going on. But for me, everything looks good in my thing. It looks good. So I don't know what's really going on. I guess it's one of those after the show debriefs I'll take a look at. So anyways, so now we have this 12 here. I think one of the things they did by offering a log profile versus the way you have to do it on these older cameras is, if you're going to do this whole native white balance mode, essentially when you choose native, although you get more dynamic range, weirdly enough, out of this camera, you don't get to choose your custom white balance anymore. And so what it seems like is, by simplifying the whole maximizing your dynamic range to color grade and post with this GoPro Log profile on the 12, professionals can now choose their own custom white balance and not have to be stuck with a semi-auto mode that is on the 11. So I think anyone who's trying to use the GoPro and mix it with a wider range of cameras, shooting in log, 10-bit, to be able to match everything, having the custom white balance is absolutely going to be a big deal. It hasn't been a big deal for me because, quite honestly, I have not mixed the GoPro in heavy production since I purchased it. I have used it more for fun, for family videos, and for YouTube. And for a lot of this stuff, I don't really mind the auto mode because I'm just doing quick production anyways. But if I was using this on set, I would absolutely want to be able to dial in my exact custom white balance, because we are not filming in RAW on these. We are filming in 10-bit. There is a little bit more latitude, but there's not that much latitude to be able to really make as big of a difference as if we were shooting in RAW. So having a custom white balance is absolutely important. So other than that, I pretty much discussed all the different options in today's video. It's kind of a subtle update, and I think we all saw this coming, because look, when GoPro came out with the 11, although it's the same body style as the GoPro Hero 10, they did put new technology in here. The sensor that was in this camera was a brand new sensor. It's a lot bigger. I came out with a video talking about this rumored 1-inch GoPro, which at least right now doesn't seem like in reality it's going to happen. And there were some reaction videos on my video basically saying they didn't think it was real. And a lot of those reaction videos were right, because I didn't realize that most of the tech in this 11 was new. It was just released last year. And although GoPro comes out, pretty much they've come out with a camera every year. I think there was like 1, maybe 2 years that they decided not to come out with a new release over the past few years. So I get it. I get why, if they invested all this R&D in this new tech, this 12 was going to be an incremental leap. It's basically improvements. But then they're almost taking the Sony route, where they're coming out. They pretty much are taking the Sony route. They're coming out with these new cameras, and a lot of the things, I believe, like the GoPro Log mode, I think they can add it to the 11 in software, but I don't think you're going to see that. If you're going to want that, you're going to want to pay the $50 more and get the 12. And I get it. It's only $50 more. So it's probably why they won't do it via software, but it's something that they should, because a lot of people like me, I don't see myself picking up a 12. I don't use the GoPro enough in production to want to pick up a bunch of them. I just use this as my fun camera. Now, if this camera died for whatever reason, I destroyed it, fell off a car, whatever it may be, then if I was going to buy a new GoPro, yes, I would buy the 12, because why not? I'll test out some of the new features. It's only $50 more than the 11. And if you have the subscription, from my understanding and following GoPro as an investor, because I still have my stock, although it's worth nothing, it seemed that they were getting rid of the whole subscription discount model. But I'm seeing a lot of posts showing that people are able to get discounts if they have a current GoPro subscription on the 12. Now, I don't know what it is in USD. A lot of the people who were posting that were in foreign countries. And so the price was like 450 pounds or euros, whatever it may be. And then they got an $100 or £100 euro discount with the subscription. So I don't know if that's going to be the case in the US, because if it is the case and you currently have a GoPro subscription and you're in the market for a 12 or an 11, probably makes the most sense to get a 12 at this point, just to have the newest and best. But if you already own an 11, I don't think that this is going to be a big jump, especially if you're not, mixing this with a bunch of other cameras. You're just using this camera for fun. I don't think there's going to be a lot of tech in this 12 to make it worth, selling your 11 to get a 12, but it is a really cool camera overall. So I wanted to kind of come out, talk to you all about what is going on with the GoPro. I'm interested to see what's going on with the frame rate, because it's so weird how I look normal in my screen right here. I'm looking at my computer right underneath the camera, and everything looks normal, but it seems, I guess, that it's going into the into YouTube weird. So I'll have to check that out. But I do want to thank you all for joining me live today. Quick little episode. I guess before we wrap things up, although it wasn't in the title, I'll probably add it after the fact. I do want to talk a little bit about the A7C2 and the A7CR. Those cameras were just released. I did not get them. I'm not on Sony's pre-release list, but they did just come out, and I think a lot of creators are talking about it because the A7C2 is essentially Sony's A7 IV in a compact body that's like similar to the size of the A7C, similar to the size of the A6700. And as you can imagine, it overheats. It overheats kind of like the A6700 does, but it's in a compact body for whoever needs that. And it's got some of the newer modes like the auto frame mode, and it's going to be higher res auto framing than using something like a ZVE1, because you're getting a downscaled from 7K sensor. So the A7C2, if you know what the A7 IV has spec-wise, it's got pretty much the same specs, but it overheats. And it's the same with the A7CR. It's very similar to the A7R5. It's a lot more expensive, but it's going to have it. There are limitations, more limitations in the A7CR than there are compared to the A7C2. For instance, there is no 8K video mode in the A7CR. There's frame rate looks normal to me. Okay, well, cool. Thank you, Mo. It must be just the way it's loading on his computer. Maybe it's maybe he's at the wrong resolution or something. But thank you for letting me know. Anyways, tangenting there. The A7CR does not look like it's a camera for me, but it's an interesting release because I think a lot of photographers that want that super high megapixel rate of that the A7R5 has, you can get that in a smaller body. A friend of mine, I think she was looking at getting the A7 IV and now is seriously looking at the A7C2 because she does not do video. And if you're, I think, only a photographer and you want the smallest setup possible, that's full frame. I think the A7C2 is going to fit the bill for a lot of people. And same with the A7CR. These names are so complicated. You can see I'm confusing. I'm like going all over the place, and it's like, I wish some companies would take kind of the naming standard. I say Red, but similar to Red, where it's like they call it the Komodo. Okay. They call it the Helium. Okay. They call it, the Raptor. And it's not that I think they need to copy Red, but like it's easier to kind of know what it comes with versus like all these code names. Changed it from 1080 to 720 and seems to have fixed the problem. Well, thank you for joining nonetheless. So yeah, that's kind of new with those cameras. I don't plan on doing a review of either of them. I'm not going to pick them up. So you're probably not really going to see any content of this on the channel. But interestingly enough, kind of like I did with picking up my second FX30 when the A6700 was announced, I actually just picked up an A7R4, or sorry, these names. I picked up an A7 IV so I could have a full frame camera in full frame mode, 24 frames per second, because that's what I normally live in. And I picked it up because image quality wise, I tested one a while ago, and I've tested obviously the FX3, and I've tested the A7S3. I used the FX3 like crazy when I was working for Grant Cardone because he had a fleet of them. I've spoken about it in other videos, but I really like that camera. But it seemed that although the A7 IV has its problems in 24p mode, if you're using it as a tripod camera, the image quality is a little bit better than something like an FX3 or an A7S3. If you're using it on a tripod and you're not doing things that like shooting action sports or whatnot, because it does have crazy rolling shutter. It doesn't have RAW, it doesn't have a lot of stuff. I'll go over it in a future video, but I'm getting one of those, not necessarily to do content on. I'm getting it to kind of have that full frame option for my clients when they want it. And in addition to that, I did pick up the Tamron 35-150. Now, I've spoken about this on the channel before. I had originally planned on doing a review with it. And the reason I didn't is because at the time I only had the two FX30s, and I didn't really see the point on reviewing that lens with using a crop sensor camera, because I thought it was unfair, as using that lens on on my FX30, I got great results. But even at 35, 35, it's not telephoto, but it's a regular, it's almost a 50 millimeter full frame field of view. So at that point, you don't really get to enjoy the 35 mil full frame version of that lens. And I felt that it was unfair. But now with the A7 IV coming in that I bought, and we have this Tamron 35-150, f2 to 2.8 coming in, I will be doing content, review content, as well as content in general, using that setup. And who knows, it could be my main gig setup moving forward. I like that lens, how the quality is really good, and it's just so versatile, and it's full frame. So, and the autofocus is decent. And I ended up picking it up over the Samyang, which I probably should do a review video on at some point. Samyang came out with a 35-150 as well. That's not half the price, but like $600 less. And if you get it used on Amazon Warehouse, you can get it for almost $900 less than the Tamron. And it just offers a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to full frame cameras that if you just want one all-in-one lens. And for me personally, that's great, because I don't need super wide angles on full frame, because for me, super wide angles, you don't get a crazy depth of field anyways. And I have those lenses covered for me when it comes to the FX30. Also, the A7 IV has some really cool crop modes, higher resolution crop modes than a lot of the other cameras like the FX3, A7S3, because I don't remember the exact megapixel, the exact resolution, but I know that the crop mode in that camera is higher than 4K. So you do get a little bit of a downsample, a little bit of a downscale. So I could use my crop sensor lenses. Like right here, we're using the Sigma 16 millimeter on an FX30, and I just absolutely love the image quality out of this lens. So it'd be cool to use it on the A7 IV. So that being said, I know I covered a little bit more than the GoPro in this live stream. So I do want to thank you all for joining me today. If you have any questions, any specific reviews you want to see on anything I've spoken about in today's video, let me know in the comments below. If you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. And until next time, my name is Jeff Fagan. Thank you for joining me as always, everybody, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Bye.